Rather than deport all of the illegals, what they should do is they should offer them a deal where if they hunt down 5 child predators, then they can get their papers, right? And then we call the program Alien versus Predator.
Oh, bro, you did not have to go that hard.
I'd buy tickets. Anyway, welcome back to the show. This is the PlebLife Podcast. I am Chris, and this is the podcast only by name so far, as in it's more like a video blog, but let's just not dwell on that and just keep going. The reason why it's called PlebLife is, well, you know, a pleb is a slang term used to describe an ordinary person, often sometimes someone who is seen as a common or lacking in status, wealth, or sophistication. It comes from the word plebeian, which is referred to the working class of ancient Rome. Nowadays, it's sometimes used playfully or dismissively to describe someone who isn't considered elite or part of a higher social group. Basically, the poor and uneducated working class of modern Western society. And we tend to have a different take on just about every topic there is out there, from the wealthy elites, even the middle class. So, full disclosure, though I'm not your ordinary pleb, as I don't really enjoy spending too much time watching sports ball. My interests are, well, news, politics, current events, which brings me here today with you guys. So, let's get going. It's been a few days, if not weeks, since my last episode, so I've got a big pile of stuff that I'm probably not going to get through completely, and a lot of it might even be old news, considering that there is so much going on in the world today that it's almost impossible, not almost, it's pretty much impossible for everybody to keep up with everything that's going on. However, thankfully, for the podcast sphere, we do not follow the same formulas as mainstream media. So you can turn on Fox News, MSNBC, NBC, all of those. You can turn them all on, and you're going to have the same list of the same 10 to 15 stories, just put in a different order with a different opinion, you know, woven in with it. But you're going to see the same story. So I'm going to try and do what I can to... I'll touch base on those because those are the topics. But mostly, I'm going to talk about what interests me. So first thing on my stack of stuff that I have here is my formerly nicotine-stained fingertips. We have Bernie Sanders. He is on a podcast that's pretty popular. Okay, this clip is from Asmongold. He does a pretty good job of finding some pretty interesting stuff. I didn't even know this interview existed. Let's just go ahead and get into it. This interview broke the internet. The Asmongold clip, it's about Bernie Sanders talking to Andrew Shultz and his homies, sitting around on their podcast. I'm not sure what that podcast is called, but if you look up Andrew Shultz, it would be pretty easy to find because it's pretty popular. Let's just check it out.
Yeah, here we go.
I have to ask this. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. We have a question we want to ask about what happened to you in 2016 with this Bernie Bros movement. Your followers are seeing they have a racism problem, a misogyny problem. Do you think that's a super PAC thing behind that?
That was the Democratic establishment. That was the...
Finally, so old that you don't give a fuck and you just say it. Fucking finally.
You know, that was just, they were sitting there. We had a lot of young people. We had people of color, and, you know, they create this kind of myth with the help of the corporate media and all that stuff.
You know, it's kind of interesting to that.
Isn't it crazy how he's basically saying the same shit about fake news? He is saying the same exact fucking shit.
Note is during this election, the podcast space, which the Democrats largely avoided, they feel had some influence in the election. And they started to label us the podcast bros and said that we were sexist and we were racist and bigoted. It's almost like it's the exact same strategy to get you out of there.
Yeah, that's what the liberal elite China does.
What?
He's actually just saying it. Oh my God.
And, liberal Democrats talk about that all the time. And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest.
Just want to point out that he pointed at the liberal elite as if he was not part of that group. He is a multimillionaire, 100-millionaire, and he is one of the tips of the spear for the liberal elite.
Human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
Gay, that's fine, who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you,
You guys see why I used to like this guy a lot? This is why they had to shut him down.
is every gay person wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
We talk a lot about the Republicans being autocrats and oligarchs and taking over democracy, but from the Democrat perspective, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, I felt like the Democratic Party completely removed the democratic process from its constituents. And I think they need to have some accountability of that.
No argument here.
I donated for you.
No argument here.
No argument.
I wanted you to 2016. I was like, this is going to happen. This guy's going to do it, and it felt like they.
Yep.
It felt like they stole it from me. And I'll be honest.
2016.
When you supported them.
Fucking based, absolutely fucking based, right to his face. He should have burned the whole thing to the ground.
Look, but you have, in the world that I live in, you got a choice.
Yep.
And a lot of people, including my wife, agree with you. But you're down to a choice. Is it going to be Hillary Clinton or is it going to be Donald Trump? Not a great choice.
But it ended up being him anyway, so why don't we burn it down?
Honestly, I agree. Burn the motherfucker down, metaphorically.
Well, because it's easy to say, burn.
I just want to also point out that when they're saying burn it down, he's basically saying tell the truth about what happened. So do you hear what's going on? They've inverted reality so much that they're talking about. These guys are having a discussion on a live broadcast with tens of thousands of viewers, and they're actually just talking about how telling the truth about something that happened would burn down an entire system. Like, what kind of system are you supporting? What kind of group or establishment are you supporting if truth will burn it down? That's just insane to me.
That means that children are not going to have, food to eat, that the schools will deteriorate, people will not have health care.
I got it.
And I'm an elected official. I got to rep people.
That's fair.
And I can't turn my back on.
But then could we not
And
also
you can
Telling
see
the
what he's
truth is
saying.
not
I
turning your
disagree with
back.
it, right? But I can see what he's saying.
could we not also say if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? We often hear
Fair enough. That is.
Nah, you said yes.
they're not also a threat to democracy. We often hear
Fair
Yes.
enough. That is. I'm not going to argue with that point.
Wow. Real questions? This is the reason why people are watching podcasts more than mainstream media. It's because these guys are asking,
They did
if you're
ask
gonna
some real
lose anyway,
questions.
why not burn the motherfucker? Exactly. These are real questions. Yes. But yeah, this is an absolute fucking gem. I love it.
So I think that those guys did a pretty good job there of getting Bernie to just casually talk about all of the things that have been in question for the last few years, around his campaign and his team. They brought up how he believes that the liberal establishment engineered this hatred towards him and his constituents, the Bernie Bros, toxic Bernie Bros campaign that CNN launched against him. And then one thing that Shultz mentioned that I kind of wish that he would have gotten deeper, and he may have. I didn't see the whole clip. I didn't see the whole show, but when he mentioned that he believes that they stole the election from him in 2016, right? And kudos for him for mentioning that, because that's a really, really hot subject with Democratic elected officials. But from what I remember, Bernie Sanders actually won his primary, the Democratic primary. He won the popular vote for the primary. But at the convention, the superdelegates decided to overturn the results and put forward Clinton, because they thought that they felt that she had a better chance of beating Trump. Or at least that's the story that we got. I'm not sure. I didn't follow that election. I was tuned out to politics. I didn't even vote that round. So, but I do think it's pretty fascinating that they ran this time around on, threat to democracy while simultaneously eliminating their primary completely. At that point, they did the primary, but they didn't honor the results. This time, they just cut the primary out completely. While campaigning on, the other side is a threat to democracy. Even though we all live in a representative republic, right? It's just gives us a lot to talk about, though. I'll tell you what. But yeah, I think that was what he was referring to when he said, I was upset when, they stole the election from you in 2016. And even after that, Bernie Sanders did decide to throw his support behind Clinton. Like he said, he was more focused on beating the opposition than, following through with his promises. Like he said, you got to make a choice. Do I choose to give up this life or keep doing what I do? Now he's driving around in a private jet. He doesn't have to answer for it. So looks like he made the right decision for himself. That's all right, though. He'll retire $100 millionaire and work for CNN and continue to shape the minds of young people for years to come. So I think Bernie Sanders is going to be okay. All right, next topic up, we got one of the old kings of political comedy here, the legend, the man, the myth, Jon Steward. He's been making the rounds lately. I'm not sure if he's coming out with a new book, if he's going to be in a movie, or he's got some kind of, new album coming out. I'm not sure what these celebrities are doing these days to try and keep their name relevant, but he is making the rounds currently. And this time he seems to be a little bit more in tune with what the general population is thinking. This clip I have of him, he is with Racheal Madow, and they are talking about the integrity of the mainstream media versus podcasts and his sphere. So right now it seems that mainstream media, legacy media, even Fox News, it's lumped in with them. They're all the same group. They're just controlled opposition is what Fox News is, but they're all the same. They're in it together to divide us, to create division amongst the people. That's their main goal. And I think Jon Steward is trying to casually point this out without starting a fight. Anyway, let's get into it. Jon Steward talks to Racheal Madow about stuff.
How did you handle town hall meetings when Tea Partiers interrupted the town hall meetings? With the same level of dismissiveness? Or did you handle it with the sense that, what's going on here, these angry people? Who are these angry people?
Well, my coverage of that was about it being organized.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, your coverage of it was to delegitimize it. That it was actually not real. It was AstroTurf.
No, actually, no. It was, I think my approach to that was to say this is being used as a widespread political tactic by people with a lot of money and a lot of stake in the policy issues. Right. And they're sort of deploying direct action activists in a way that we haven't seen before. Would
you say that the general spirit of the block of coverage on MSNBC was as dismissive of the woman who stands up and says Bush is a war criminal? Do you think MSNBC has changed over the last 5 years? There is a genetic linkage between Keith. Keith was the first, and it was a voice like in the wilderness. People were like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you can say that? And then you came on and Ed, and again, now I'm talking about climate as opposed to weather. But
yeah,
I still don't understand that statement.
A linkage that I think it would be hard for you to say, like, geez, I don't know if we're really doing that.
Last time we
So that was just a clip. We're going to keep going. That right away, he doesn't seem to be backing down. Good for him.
Steward eviscerating Racheal Madow, Nicole Wallace, and Joe Scarborough for their Trump derangement syndrome, only to watch them double down instead of learning their lesson. And who swooped in from the wings to deliver yet another classic takedown? Jon Steward, of course. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and let's dive right in.
We've all bought into that the conflict in this country is left and right. Liberal, conservative, red, blue. And all the news networks have bought into that. CNN sort of started it. They had this idea that, the fight in Washington is Republicans and Democrats. So why don't we isolate that, and we'll stand back here, and that's, Democrats and Republicans will go at it. Red and blue staters will go at it. And what it does is it amplifies a division that I actually don't think is the right fight. But if what you're asking me is, do I believe that? What he's saying, that's what I believe? No.
Now, this is an older clip, and it might surprise some of you. Back in the day, Jon Steward was a vocal and unapologetic liberal, a champion of progressive causes. But even he could ideological divide. These outlets were doubling down on tribalism, feeding their audiences a steady diet of outrage and confirmation bias. The media, which once held the potential to unite or at least foster civil discourse, became another weapon in the partisan arsenal. And now, just look around. We've become a nation split into political tribes, where debate is dead and distrust is the default.
So that was just a small little itty bitty clip of a much bigger interview where he goes on to say a lot more things just like that. If I were you, I should check that out. Really, if you like either of these two people, if you're a fan of The Daily Show or Racheal Madow show, this is going to be interesting for you. Check it out. Also, Jon Steward's he's like I said, he's been making the rounds, and in return, I think his show is starting to gain a little more popularity, because he's starting to sort of give more of that kind of analysis, more critical analysis of the side that he's been on, that he's been circling the wagons for the last few years. All right, moving on. So, keeping in line with the current state of the ruling class and what they're telling us versus what's actually happening, we have here a clip of a government official, I believe at the state level, maybe not. Okay, this is asking the Office for Women how they define women. So, Liberal Senator for Tasmania, Claire Chandler asked the Office for Women how they define the term woman during the Finance and Public Administration budget estimate hearings. So this clip is many, many years old. However, it's pretty relevant even today because it seems like the liberal left has dug in deeper into this whole idea that men can be women and women can be men, and it's just seems like the only purpose of that is to be divisive, because down at the poverty line and below, there are way too many issues in life for most of us to be concerned about someone else's sexuality. That's not really even a topic that comes up in discussion in the below the poverty line. Okay, well, let's just see what the Office for Women has to say about what they believe a woman is, or what they consider a woman to be.
For women, definition of woman do you use?
What definition of women do we use?
Adult human female. That's, I want to say that's as concise and plain and direct as you can get.
Question.
You oversee and promote a range of initiatives, funding programs specifically designated for women.
So yeah, I guess it is
how do you
Tasmania.
define what a woman is
She
to
sounds
determine
like she's from
eligibility
Tasmania.
for the purposes of providing advice on women's policy to government and ministers?
So,
Long pause.
In the Office for Women, we recognise individuals who identify as women, and that's in accordance with the Australian government guidelines on the recognition of sex.
So for anybody out there listening, she is reading from a piece of paper that was handed to her by someone sitting next to her as to this is what you're supposed to say, or this is what you're allowed to say, kind of thing. She's reading from a paper. This is a woman, an older woman, gray-haired woman who has matured, lived a long life, and still doesn't seem to be able to say the words adult, human, female.
Sex and gender.
Right. On what basis do you use those guidelines to guide that decision, that policy position?
This is so silly.
So, Senator, in terms of answering your question, as I say, we follow the Australian government guidelines on the recognition
She
of
looks
sex and gender. So,
extremely uncomfortable. She even took off her glasses.
In terms of looking at our grants program, to take an example. So we've talked quite a bit today about the expansion of the Women's Leadership and Development Program. So in terms of the grant guidelines, it talks about the fact that those grants are there to assist women's safety, women's economic security, women's leadership, to boost women's workforce participation, to assist to keep women safe.
But what are those things?
In terms of the definition, it then comes back to where I started in answer to your question, in terms of us recognising any individual who identifies as a woman.
So to be clear, then, the Office for Women is not focused exclusively on policies for the betterment of biological women.
Senator, I think I can only repeat what I've just said.
She's not allowed to say.
Australian government guidelines.
This will be coming to a state capital near you, ladies and gentlemen. It's very telling, seeing something like this. Not necessarily the things that were said, but the things that she was not allowed to say. Like she actually said, I cannot say any more than what I just said. And she went on rambling a lot, saying the word woman as many times as she could to try and get that imprint on people's minds. Saying that a woman is an adult human female isn't an insult to non-adult human females. It's just making a statement of fact. And so yeah, that came up on my feed, and I thought that was very interesting because that was 4 years ago, and the topic has not settled. It has only gotten more divisive. It's so bizarre. So that was world news. What's going on out in the world? Tasmania, they have a lovely accent out there, don't they? So let's bring it back to the States and look around locally. I am located in Central California, where the natives are very restless. Not just Central California, but all throughout this big, beautiful golden state. We have lots and lots of subcultures, lots and lots of groups of people who seem to be upset at their neighbors because the news tells them that they're supposed to be. We have a whole lot of young people who seem to be looking for a revolution, looking for some sort of purpose, but can't seem to find it and are becoming very restless. Here is an example of just that. We have a scene from the local news in LA a few days ago, where apparently a mob of young people just wild out. Let's see what KCAL local LA news has to say.
Now to a mob of people rampaging through downtown LA, tagging police cars and vandalizing metro trains.
KCAL News reporter Lauren Posen is downtown with the video and the damage left behind.
There's a lot of damage, and while it may look like this is a deserted strip mall, it's not. There's businesses here, and nearly every single business you're looking at has freshly tagged graffiti right on it. And so while this is where it all ended, it actually started right across the street from where we are. Pure mayhem in downtown Los Angeles. A huge mob of people started tagging whatever and wherever they could Saturday night on Trinity Avenue near Washington Boulevard. Watch as a group begins spray painting 2 Metro trains. Metro says around 50 people blocked the train's path, tagging not only the outside but the inside of one of the trains too. A patrol car was also hit as the officer tried to drive away. A person who witnessed the chaos says it happened right after LAPD shut down a rooftop event.
There was a show by Dead City Punk, and there was easily over like 3,000 people there. And we were on top of a parking lot. So what ended up happening is that it got too crazy, it got too crowded.
One person at the show shared this video that shows what he's talking about.
There was people with hairsprays, and then they had like a lighter, so it was kind of like a flamethrower basically.
LAPD showed up in riot gear and declared an unlawful assembly, but the crowd didn't back down.
I mean, LA's finest.
The cops started pushing forward is because people were messing with the cops. They were antagonizing them. They threw fireworks at them. They were throwing beer cans. Anything you can think of. They were throwing stuff.
Witnesses say police fired rubber bullets at the crowd, which eventually cleared out. People who were there admit it did get out of control, but they also say that's part of the appeal of these shows.
That's kind of like the energy of those type of shows. People are just gonna go there to just let out all the frustration and anger that they have built from life, family, society. There was a lot of damage done, and that wasn't right.
Metro says no one was hurt, but service was delayed about 20 minutes. No arrest either, but police tell us they're investigating. Reporting in downtown Los Angeles, Lauren Posen, KCAL News.
Thanks, Lauren Posen, for that update on what's going on in LA. I don't know why, but the thing that stood out most to me about this story is that I think most of the information about what was going on came from a TikTok. It looked like the gentleman that was telling what was going on. I don't know. It didn't seem like he was being interviewed by a news, broadcaster. It seemed like he was doing his own personal broadcast to TikTok, and they just sort of, found it, picked it up, and ran with it. Of course, I would say, hey, it's out there. Use it. That's information for you. It's funny. It's very funny to me that legacy media is now using TikTok as a source for their news stories, rather than having sent someone out there while it was happening. We can just get it on TikTok. That's, I guess, a sign of the times. But while I've got your attention, I just want to say thank you to these guys right here. StreamYard, it's because of them that I'm able to use this format and put this little picture in the picture and have the little chyron coming across the bottom right here where it says subscribe for more. When I get better at this, it's going to look a little bit better. When we get monetized, I might be able to get rid of that. So things are happening, things are going, but make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to do my best to keep putting out more stuff like this, but let's get back to it.
Breaking news! Dollar Tree has revealed its intention to raise its price cap to $7. CEO Rick Dreiling stated, "This year, we plan to broaden our multi-price selection by over 300 items across 3,000 stores, with prices ranging from $1.50 to $7.
So that little clip right there was interesting, huh? They're going to raise their prices. I feel like that's already happened, A, and it's still happening, B. The $1.50 that he just said is there are very few items that are left there that are $1.50. Everything's about $3 to $5. It's still cheaper than your other alternatives, but yeah, I think the reason why they're able to do that is because the competition, their direct competition, is gone. And I think it's Dollar Tree, and 99 cents and more. There was Dollar General, but they already raised their prices a while back. And so now that Dollar Tree is the last man standing in that dollar area, they've decided, let's make more money. I guess that's the purpose of business anyway. However, I don't see them sharing any of those newfound profits with their, lower level employees. I think that's going to all go towards, CEO bonuses, corporate bonuses. But and that's all just me theorizing, talking shit, because that's what we do here on Pleb Life. Just poor people talking shit about the news.
Hey, Bobby, look, I'm American. I think I'll use my credit card. Do you guys have anything non-dairy? Anything gluten-free?
It's funny because I went to, there's a couple of Asian stores around me in my neighborhood. Those are the closest things to me. And one day I went looking for some milk, just a gallon of milk. And I thought, I'm going to go to the closest grocery store. Asian stores don't have dairy. There's hardly any dairy, if any at all. They just don't do it. I was a little confused at first, but after talking to a couple of people, hey, I just go, okay. And they got great vegetables there though, like fresh vegetables all day. But don't go there. Don't go to an Asian store looking for cheese or milk, because they're just not going to have it. But my friends, that's all I have for you today. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button on the way out. It really, really helps. We're still trying to build up a little bit of momentum to get some viewership going. And every click on any button, leave a like, leave a comment below. If you didn't like it, tell me why. And I will see you next time.
That without my TV. No, but seriously, bring the TV.